like to introduce you to our next speaker, Stephanie Powers. Before I do, though, I'm hoping that during the break, during lunch, and any time when you're sitting together, that you're talking about what your research is, what your challenges are, you're asking for help, you're looking for opportunities, you're remembering what your homework is that you've now gotten from 2 different speakers, so that you've got stuff to do. Now's the time, all right? Stephanie Powers has been researching genealogy and family history since 1995. Passionate about the topic, she speaks at genealogy events and conferences, and she helps others with their research. She's a member of AAHGS, where she previously served as the National Journal editor. Stephanie created the AAHGS Metro Atlanta chapter newsletter and served as the DNA Special Interest Group facilitator. She holds a BS in business and an MBA. In her spare time, she enjoys golfing, gardening, outdoor adventure, and exploring foreign cultures. In getting prepared for this, I asked her if it was okay for me to read this, and she said, sure. She'll be telling you more about herself, and she'll be leaving a few minutes for questions at the end. Okay? Thank you. Come on, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. So it's after lunch. And after we've had 2 different sessions, a lot of information, so y'all know what's next. Our quiz. So my quiz, before I introduce myself and all that, I do want to tell you that I will ask you some questions, so be prepared for questions that I will ask you next. But this is who I am. So Stephanie Powers is who he introduced me as. And that little picture over there on the right-hand side, that symbolizes when I was a little girl. My parents used to take us down to the little town where my mother grew up. The town, Little Missouri, we went down and we decorated the graves. And as a child, I remember I would ask her about each grave site and the person, who they were. And she didn't know. She was right. She was the one that had been buried in her lifetime or whatever, but she didn't know. So over time, I really started asking other people, other older people, who are these people and how are they related to us? And I got a lot of, I don't know, that's cousin so and such. And cousin so and such was always some nickname. It's Uncle Bubba. You know, and so I started writing it down and I started sharing it with other people. And that's really how my love for family history research and genealogy came about. And as I was discussing just here before this presentation, I like technology. I like everything about technology. I used to work for a technology firm. I still do technology consulting. So I'm all into DNA. You know, DNA and artificial, I am not afraid of it. So I hope that I'm inspiring you guys a little bit to say, hey, if Stephanie can do it, yeah, here's the quiz part. So how many people have either taken a DNA test or you've somebody in your family? Okay, that's a good showing, good showing. Okay, so people that have taken a DNA test or had somebody else that you know take a DNA test, have you, how many different DNA companies have you interacted with? Tell me a number. Tell me. All right. Okay. And for those of you who have used more than one DNA company, or DNA testing company, taken your test, you analyzed it or whatever, how many of you have done anything else with that? You've done something else with it? Thank you. Okay. That's a good group. But I'm going to catch up the rest of y'all. So I saw some folks that didn't put your hands up. You didn't show me anything. Who this is actually for it was for people who had taken a test already and people who had looked at their DNA. But let me just catch up those people who haven't. Okay, so for people who have not taken a DNA test, I'm not even going to look over there at her. Yeah. Okay, so for people who have not taken a DNA test, what happens is you either swab your cheek or spit in a little vial, you mail it away, mail it off to the company. It goes online, so you go back to their website and you look and they show you, hey, here's what we found out about the sample that you sent us. And a lot of times they send you this big long list of people that you are related to, and they guess and estimate how you are related to those people. And it's up to you to figure out how you're really related. So they do their best job of estimating how you are related. But that's why this is called beyond the list, because technically that's what they send you. They send you this big long list, and you have to figure out what's right and what's wrong. Now, over time, the different testing companies, they've kind of evolved, and some of them have helped us more, and so there are more tools that are available and so forth. And that's how we got here today. We got here today so that I can help you get beyond just that list. But after talking to some of you all, I think that I also need to go back and just kind of catch some of you up. So I'm going to do that. But for those of you who are afraid suddenly, I will catch you up. So let's just start with the core problem. The core problem is that when you send your test out to this company, they give you back a lot of information. They give you back who you relate. Yes. Can you take pictures? I will send this out to you. So don't bother taking pictures because I don't, there's nothing in here you cannot have. So don't waste your time. So the core problem is that there's just a lot of information. And a lot of folks don't want to have to try to process that. What do you do? They have tried to simplify. The testing companies have tried to simplify it as much as they possibly can because they know that their audience is really varied. You know, their audience are people just off the street that just send their DNA test in. Sometimes, a lot of the times, the people that take a test, they got it for Christmas or their birthday or whatever. They just take no attention to anything else with it. But there are others that are like me who want to use that information to find out more about my family. I, for one, take DNA tests, process other people's DNA tests, encourage my family members to take DNA tests so that I can find out more about our family history. So I'm trying to go back in time. I'm trying to figure out how we're all related to each other. That's my purpose. Some people have a different purpose. Some people took it because it was interesting. You know, they got it for Christmas. That's it. So that's that. Then the testing companies, they give you some tools. The tools evolve over time. And in order to catch up, in order to keep up, you have to keep going back to that company to see what they've done, how they've adapted. Have you guys found that? You got to keep up. You got to keep up with what they're doing. If they update their sites all the time. So even though I will send you something that has a picture of something from a site, doesn't mean it's always going to stay that way. You know, even a fuss at these steps until we do. The companies change their sites all the time. It's like any other technology company, they evolve, they update. The things that you can do with some companies, you may or may not be able to do with them in the future. And for that reason, all of you that raised your hand and said you took a DNA test before, if you have not downloaded anything, then you've probably missed something. Because a lot of companies have changed what they've allowed you to download, so you don't have access to it anymore. Anybody found that? Found that? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So sometimes they make changes, and you have to capture what you can at the time that you see it, because sometimes they change what's available to you. I'm going to give you a couple of examples in a minute of what those things are. But let's go through these really quickly. So this is about interpreting your DNA, right? Figuring out what they sent you and what does it mean. These are the things that I have found are the most common problems and what I would recommend to resolve those problems. So that first one's pretty easy. You guys have heard that twice today. You got to figure out what it is you're trying to do. Why are you doing it? What's your purpose? What's your purpose? Because if you tell me that the question everybody asks me, which test should I take? Well, it depends on what you're trying to find out. It depends on what it is you're trying to learn. If all you want to learn is, oh, back in Africa, where did my ancestors possibly come from? Where did they pop? What tribes might they be a part of? Well, I'm not going to tell you that you should take 23andMe to do that. They're not the best company to do that. Maybe you should take African Ancestry. You might take African Ancestry. You know what I'm talking about? It's a Black-owned company that's what they do. If that's all you want, if you're not trying to use that information to go and build your family tree, go take that test. That's the only thing about it. But if you're someone that wants to go and do what Alex Haley did and try to get back to Africa, I would recommend that you do some other tests. That's what those tests are really recommended for. So find out what you want to do. Have a specific question. It's a lot easier if you are researching for a specific question. Now, when you first take your test, I know it's overwhelming to get all this information. You might try to do an overview at that time. But once you get beyond that, try to figure out what it is, what that one question is you are trying to make, you're trying to answer when you sit down on that one day to do research. It's usually different and changes over time. But what's your question and why are you doing this research in the first place? The next one is chasing every DNA match. So you guys that took this DNA test and you saw this list of matches, how many DNA cousins did it say you had? How many?
Yeah.
There were thousands of, it depends on which test you take, so a little limit to it to like 1,500, but 1,500 is a lot. So you're trying to chase every single DNA match, every single possible relationship that you have with everybody else that took the test in the company. So that's what they do. They give everybody takes the same test. They compare it to see how you are related to each other. So if you waste your time trying to track down every single match, I'm not retired yet, but even if I were, I can't imagine spending all of my time trying to track down every single DNA match. And I do it a lot that I will get questions for somebody and they go, oh, how are we related? And, can you tell me more? And I'll look and I'll see how far down my list they are. And when I say how far down my list they are, normally when you get your list of cousins back, the more DNA you share with people, the more closely you are related. The least DNA you share with people, the more broadly the more distant the relationship. And it's harder to find out how you are related to someone who is very, very distant. And so I would say to you that let your DNA question determine which DNA cousins you try to analyze, so which matches you try to analyze. So don't waste your time trying to track down every single match that is on your list. It's not realistic, it wastes your time. You will feel frustrated. You will feel frustrated if all you did was scroll that list continuously. You might feel that, I felt that. Ignoring evidence is already there in front of you. So the DNA companies, they try to do their best to put out enough information for you to be useful. But it's really up to you to figure out how to use it. It's really up to you to go through their little help sessions. It's up to you to look at the videos. If I say little, some of them have pretty extensive help sessions on their websites where they have videos and that kind of thing. It's up to you to do that. But look for patterns. Are those people in the same geographic area? But try to find something to help yourself. And it's there, and I'll point it out to you in a minute where it is and how to find it. And for each of those DNA cousins that they list, they suggest what the relationship might be, and they suggest the probability. So there'll be 5 or 6 or 10 different relationships that person might be to you. If you just take the first one because this has the highest probability, then you might miss out on all the other ways that person might be related to you. I'll show you that in a minute. So I'm kind of prepping you for some other things that we're going to talk about. But investigate all the possible relationships. Don't get stuck on the one on the first one that they suggest to you. And then relying on existing family trees. I know y'all have run into this on other sites. Those of you that have done family history research and you've been on Ancestor DNA, or I know you can put your tree on MyHeritage. Where else can you put your tree? GEDmatch. Where else can you put your tree? All those other different sites where you see people who have put their family trees out there, you went down their tree, you copied down their tree, and it was wrong. So I would just say to you, don't just rely on those trees that you find out there. Always validate every single one of them. They might help you correct stuff in your own tree, but they might not. So the problem I see is that people just copy somebody else's tree without validating it. So validate everything. Don't just accept it. Even if it looks like it matches the DNA, Validate. That's what I have to say about that. A minute ago, I talked about downloading data. And I asked those of you who have taken tests if you've downloaded and used other tools, because there is so much out there besides just the testing companies that sell you the test. And we're going to talk about a few of them today. But you don't have to just rely on 23andMe and Ancestry DNA and FT DNA. You don't have to just rely on this. There are other tools out there that are available also. So I would say use all the tools that are available. Don't just rely on the one that you started with. Here's an example. Okay, so this is from looks like Ancestry. And if you can see on this page, it looks like me matching to somebody else that I'm related to. And it's trying to tell me information about our relationship. So it tells me an estimate of how we are related, says we're second cousins, first removed or something like that. Because Ancestry has started telling me which side of the family you're on, they're on, paternal or maternal, and I just so happen to have my mother's DNA on here, it knows that this is the paternal side of my family, so it told me that. It wasn't always the case. Before this, they were telling you had to try to guess and figure it out, but they're telling me that this person is on my paternal side of my family, which is very helpful. I get to eliminate a whole 50% of the other side. It tells me the amount of DNA that I share in centimorgans. So what's a centimorgan? What is it? Centimorgan is just the way that they measure the amount of DNA. So that's all it is. It's just a measurement. That CM it stands for centimorgan. It is a measurement of the amount of DNA that you share with someone. It says that number of segments, or the segment. Segment is a portion of the DNA, and you usually the longer the segment, the more closely you are related. And so calculating the number of segments is good, and the length of the segment is good. It doesn't show on this page, but if you clicked right there, it would give you more description. And Ancestry actually does show you the length of the segments, so it shows you that. And it tells you common ancestors. So that place where it says common ancestors, how do you think you got that information?
Tree.
You got it from other people's trees. So this is its way of saying, hey, we looked at your tree and we looked at this other person's tree, and we found two people that are exactly the same, that look like they're the same person. If I had a tree that was private and wasn't letting anybody see it, it wouldn't show up there. If the other person had a tree, didn't have a tree, it wouldn't show up there. So the only reason that information is there is because that person and me decided that we would make our trees public, so that Ancestry could look at that information and determine whether or not it saw two of the same ancestors on it. So that's the reason that information is there. The other thing that it's telling you is it says that there's a tree, and I can look on the tree if she's got one. If she doesn't have one, it'll tell me that there's no tree and you need to contact her. It tells me the origins. So that's something that I was just talking about a minute ago. If you try to find out where you came from in the world, that's what origins is about. And then the next one is shared matches. And we're going to talk about shared matches a lot today. So that's basic information. All the other testing companies tell you something similar to this. They usually tell you who it is, who the person is. They tell you how much DNA you share with that person. And they try to tell you an estimate of how you are related to that person. So for each DNA cousin you have, each DNA relative you have, you get some basic information. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. And today, one of the things that I'm trying to do is to figure out for my DNA ancestors, I have a question that I'm trying to answer. And I'm trying to match the different bits of DNA that I share with ancestors from the past. So just like on the previous page before, it said that that person and I shared ancestors. I'm trying to match the amount of DNA that I share with that ancestor. That's my goal. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. And a lot of the things that I'm doing today is trying to answer that question. I'm trying to say, this little bit of DNA I got from great-great-grandmother. That's what I'm trying to answer. That's the question I'm trying to answer. So here's some other information that we give you. So here's some different view of it. This one from Ancestry DNA. So I've got a list of cousins. The thing that I want to show you here is this. I put that in. So there's a place where you can put in notes. And in notes, I put a little bit of that person's lineage that goes back to the place where I am related to them. So the place where I am related to them is commonly called the most recent common ancestor. So the most recent common ancestor means this person and I, if we trace our lineage backwards, the people, the couple or the person that we are related to, we're both related to, I try to make a note. And that's Stephanie's note that I wrote in on the notes section. And it stays there. So as I look at this long list of people, this long list of DNA contacts, everybody that I've researched has a little list, has a little note on it, and it shows up on that page. So it keeps me from having to go anyplace else besides that one page to see these notes on here. Do you mind know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. All right, so that note I put everywhere. So I've taken tests on all the different DNA sites. I've uploaded to all the different DNA sites, and on every one, I use the same notation. So what that does for me is it helps me say that every person that I'm researching, all those DNA contacts, DNA matches, they'll have these little notes on. And the notes tell from that person that took the DNA test, who their parent was, their grandparent, their great-grandparent, et cetera, back to the person that shows how they're related to me. So there's an example from Ancestry and another example from MyHeritage, and you can see in both cases I've written a note, and the note's the same. It tells who that person's parent was, who their grandparent was, et cetera, back to the place where they are related to me. So back to the most recent common ancestor. The company didn't do that for me. I had to go and do the research myself, but it's all there on the system. Now there's a place where you can actually download it. So if you want to download it, copy it down. I mean, I also keep my family tree on my computer on software that's Family Tree Maker. Anybody use Family Tree Maker? Right. So I also keep it there. But while I'm working on DNA, it's right there in front of me. It's on every system that I've used. The notes are right there. I don't have to go and look in place else. I can see that. How do y'all think that helps me?
You focus.
Huh?
Keeps you focused.
It keeps me focused. I don't have to go back and look at people that are not on the same. I'm not looking at a color-coded chart. I can see exactly which person I'm researching. The notes that I take on the individual sites, if I want to compile them at all, I can do that, and I do that sometimes when I download my DNA. But I don't have to get on the site to do it. It's all sitting right there in front of me. It saves time. How many of you had 23andMe? Have many of you taken a 23andMe test? Let's talk about 23andMe. This chart is just an example that 23andMe was trying to help us figure out how our DNA matches were related to us. And they have this little feature that's the family tree, and that's what they're estimating. They estimate that person at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that from way back in the back, but they're trying to estimate how those people are related to us. And that's their little helpful hint. So let's talk about 23andMe as a company for a minute, because 23andMe went through some changes. What changes did they go through? They got bought out, right? And everybody was concerned about where their DNA data was going to go to. And people were telling you to download your data and delete your account or whatever. So it did change hands. And the woman who originally started the company, she's back in charge of it. I did not download my data. I did get that little letter that said there was a breach. I do understand that happened before the bankruptcy. But they're still working. They're still up and running. The thing that's changed for 23andMe is they used to allow you to download all of your DNA matches. They used to allow you to download exactly how you were related to each one of those people. And right now, they don't allow you to do that anymore. The other change that 23andMe has made is that the amount of DNA that you share with someone, instead of being in a centimorgan, we just talked about centimorgans, they tell you the percentage of DNA you share with someone. And it's a lot harder to figure out how you're related to someone based upon the percentage. It is a lot easier to tell how you're related to someone based upon the amount of DNA in a solid number as opposed to a percentage. You can't compare those percentages. And for that reason, it's a lot harder. If you have not already downloaded your DNA from your matches from 23andMe, it's a lot harder to use it for the purpose of building a family tree. That company has decided that they're going to focus on healthcare and coming up with pharmaceuticals or whatever. They're focusing on something that's different. You can still do some of the things like senior matches. You can still do this little family tree thing. But from my perspective, using it to figure out how you're related to someone has become harder because it doesn't tell you that information anymore. And I'm just looking, from a security standpoint, I totally get it. I totally understand that they're not allowing you to download that information anymore. But you can still look at your matches that are out there. They still sell DNA kits. They still want you to sell kits and take surveys and talk about your health. That's still there. So I say all that to say, it's harder if you've not already downloaded your DNA, if you've not already downloaded your matches. The old matches that I download, I can still use them, but it's more difficult. So those of you that were asking me, which DNA test should you take? You probably shouldn't take 23andMe for the purpose of doing family history, because right now, the services that they're offering, it's harder to figure that out. It's harder to figure out the family. So I wouldn't buy a new test there, but if you've already got one there, I'm not telling you to delete yours. I didn't delete mine, it's still there. And I can still go and look at those existing ones, and who knows, some new family member might take a test and I might be able to go out and look at the new test. But for the purpose of looking at your family tree and trying to figure out how to expand it, 23andMe has changed. Any questions about 23andMe about this? I'm not telling y'all to stop using them. I'm just saying it's just harder. It's hard. Okay, I feel lunch setting in because y'all gotten awfully quiet. This is the question that I have right now. All this morning, we have been talking about how to break through the 1870 barrier. Y'all in the back may or may not be able to see this, but this is my dad's family and his family tree. And this is where I am stuck. I am trying to figure out how to build a DNA family tree, because I'm already back to the point where I'm researching ancestors who were alive at the time that they were enslaved. So I have gotten to the point where I'm trying to figure that out, and I can do documentary research. I have done documentary research to find out who these people are. I need more information. I need to figure out how they're related to each other. I'm trying to go back in time. The circle is what I'm working on today, is what I'm going to show you. But here's some of my research questions. So I'm building a DNA family tree. What's a DNA family tree? A DNA family tree is when I can assign a segment of DNA to a specific ancestor, and I can do that across the line of people that I'm related to. So I want to find out, I know I'm related to my father, right? I know how much DNA I share with him. I want to know how much DNA I share with my grandparents, and my great-grandparents, etc. I want to know the exact piece of DNA that I share with them. That is my DNA family tree. The other question I have is that circle includes this gentleman, Charles. I know who Charles is. I have him on. I have documentation about Charles. I do not know his death date. I can't seem to find anything about his death. I understand that for the records that I have about Charles, that he may have a brother named Jasper. And I want to find out about Jasper. I don't know if Robert is really his father, but I want to find that out. But I basically want to find out about Jasper and Charles, and I want to use DNA to try to find the descendants of Jasper and Charles. The descendants of Jasper and Charles who have taken DNA tests, I should be able to find out on all those different DNA sites. So my goal is to use the DNA from existing people who are alive today to try to figure out how I'm related to some of these people, and to try to find other sources that I can go to find information out about. What y'all think? Anybody at this point where you've done a bunch of You've done a bunch of documentary research and you're like, what do I do next? Where do I go? That's where I am right here with him. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what else can I possibly find out about Charles? You know, it says he's my second great grandparent on all these records that I have, but I want to know more. When was he? I have no death record on him. I know he had to die by now, right? But I also want to clarify and see if that Robert is really his father. I want to find out who the possible enslavers were. I don't know. I'm trying to find out more information so I can go back in time. And I'm using DNA to look at all the people that are descendants of Charles and Jasper, Charles and his brother, to see if I can get to a point where I can find sources to answer those questions. Do y'all think that's a good question to try to answer? Yeah. Yeah, so as I'm going through this, I'm just kind of thinking out loud. I'm telling you what I'm doing to try to figure out how to answer these questions. So I've done that. First thing we were talking about this morning is to have a solid question that I'm going to answer. Tammy to me, they all told y'all to have a question. This is my question that I'm trying to answer with DNA. I am not trying to look at any of the other DNA that I have. I'm not looking at my mother's side of the family. I'm not looking at any of these other ancestors that I have. I'm just searching for Charles and Charles's brother. That's what I'm looking for. So if I look here, I don't expect y'all in the back to see this, but Robert over here on the side, that's the person I think is the father of Charles and Jasper. And the next one is Charles and Jasper, they're yellow. So those are the supposed brothers and their spouse. And I found out that Jasper had two wives. And then the descendants are the orange color of Jasper and Charles and their wives, assumed wives. And out of those people, I found DNA profiles for their descendants. So for Jasper, who's on top, I found 8 descendants, DNA descendants, that were listed on some of my different trees. Yes.
You found that all of those people had taken DNA tests?
A descendant of those persons took a DNA test. A descendant of them. Because if you look at their dates of birth and death, they're long dead. But a descendant of those people took it. Okay, so I've been doing DNA for a long time. So I didn't just find this yesterday. It took a long time to find people that were descendants of them. Anybody know what I'm talking about? It took a long time. You're waiting for people to take some new DNA test will pop up and you're like, oh, finally.
So what are you looking at exactly? Because I'm already lost. So you're finding people now,
Correct,
who are related to these folks.
who descended from those folks. And remember that notation that I showed you where I said, this is the person, this is their father, their grandfather, their great-grandfather, or whatever. I traced them back to those people listed in the orange who are descendants.
Where's the DNA verification?
I'm going to show you that in a minute.
Yeah.
You are with me. You are with me. So again, I found the descendants of these people, and I was amazed that I found that many, to be honest with you, because it's hard sometimes to trace people back that far. It's hard because other people haven't done the research, the documentary research to figure out how they're related back that far. It's hard because those 6 profiles, 4 of them are mine that I control, right? So I had to find people that would take DNA tests that were on that line of the family, right? So everybody with me? So I found people who are alive today who have taken DNA tests who are descendants of those people. I got it from all the different websites. I used them all. All you people ask me which DNA, I used them all. So which ones are they? Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, my heritage, FT DNA. My brother's taken Y DNA. I've taken MT DNA. What's that other one? Living DNA. I took living DNA. Do I have a list?
They have you episode listing of that in here?
No, we can talk about it. Okay. The ones that I listed out are ones that I've taken, and there are ones that are biggest and most widely available. There are other ones, right? But the reason that I did that was because I wanted to find my possible relatives, no matter which DNA test they decided to take. So I took a DNA test. I talked my brother into taking one, my uncle, my mother. I talked members of my family into taking DNA tests based upon research questions, but also because I wanted to fill out my family tree. So to get to this point has taken years for me to be able to say that I have that many people. Now it might not take y'all that long, because I know some people give out DNA tests at their family reunions, so they get a bunch of them. But it might not take y'all that long. But it did take a long time to get this many people that are just based upon this line of this tree. So think about how many people on the all the other ancestors, right? Right. So I don't tell y'all DNA is easy, but it's fun. It's fun. Okay, so then after I did that, for those people that took those DNA tests, I didn't just accept what their family tree said. I had to go and validate that it was right. Are they really on this line? They could be on a different line and they just copied somebody else's and it looked like they were on the same place. And I had to go back and validate it. So it took a long time to get to this point, but it's worth it because now I can legitimately say that I know for sure that those people on those profiles that I have listed, they come from this line. This is where they come from. Why is that important? Because in order for me to find my ancestor Charles, I have to make sure that the people that are related to me today really were related in this way. They might have been related in some other way. But I've pinpointed that I'm after Charles and Charles's brother. And so I look for Charles and Charles's brother's descendants. And that's how many profiles that I found. I'm impressed with just that. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Okay, so there are tools that you can use to help you along the way. So what kind of tools have you guys used before to help you decipher how people are related to you using DNA? So one of the ways that you can do it looks like this. It's a cluster. I know y'all giving browns and stuff. Okay, so what this is down the left-hand side is a list of people's names. I covered them up just to keep them private. Those same list of names are listed across the top. So if you look at the intersection between the top and the side, that shows how those people are related to each other. And what clustering does is it allows you to group people into groups. So each of those colors is a different group. And off to the side, it says there are like 13 groups. Okay, so MyHeritage does this cluster thing. I cannot control it. They do it themselves. What that means is that they take all of my people that I'm supposedly related to, they compare them and say, hey, how are these people related to each other? Let's do a little color chart. And that's what they gave me. So I didn't do it. MyHeritage did it for me. I said, I went to their website, I clicked on it and said, hey, send me my clusters. And it sent it to me via email. That's what it says. That circle, the yellow with the circle, that's what I'm working on right now. That's my Charles Kirkland. That's his cluster. It's actually it's actually Charles Kirkland's is the yellow cluster. And each one of those other clusters is supposedly one of my other ancestors, right? Right. So each one of those is one of my other ancestors. But I'm only focusing on that orange one. And it shows me this on the screen, right? I'm not showing this to you guys online on purpose because every time I try to do something, it doesn't work out. So I just took pictures of it. I'm sorry.
Question.
Yes.
Question. So the clusters are different sizes.
Uh-huh.
So the larger the cluster, the what?
It means more of those people have taken a test and they are related to each other.
Okay.
There are some folks, some lines of my family where it looks like nobody takes a DNA test. I just cannot find them. They're not there. But that's what it is. A lot of folks that are in that same line, that same group, the tests, and they are related to each other, they have enough DNA in common that they showed up on this chart. Because the other thing that this chart does is it weeds out those people that don't have enough DNA shared with other people in that group. I feel like I'm talking a lot of detail, but okay, so the Atlanta chapter, we used to have a DNA group, a DNA special interest group, and this is what we did. We sat and analyzed and tried to figure out how to use these tools. We tried to figure out our DNA questions. That's what we did. Because it does take some studying and some. So when I'm talking to you, I'm kind of talking to you at a high level because it does take some detail to help you answer your questions. Did I answer your question? No, okay. Because this is where we were. This was the question that you asked me. This was the question you asked me, so I want to make sure we got this.
No, because, okay, you're saying this is in MyHeritage.
This is one tool in MyHeritage. There are multiple tools, but one of them is this cluster that they will automatically cluster your DNAs for your DNA.
Not just your DNA in MyHeritage. You're using multiple.
This is the one I did for MyHeritage. I'm going to show you the one I did for a different one, but I did this in multiple sites because everybody's not on the same.
The same.
As much as I could. Some of them don't have the same tools. There is not, this auto cluster tool is not on all of the sites.
That's why I was wondering how you correlated from site to site.
Because everybody's not on the same, I did what I could for each one. That's why I tell you to download. Because if you can download from one site, you can upload it into GEDmatch, and GEDmatch has a bunch of tools. GEDmatch is a company that, they are in existence to help people that are researching using DNA. And they don't sell DNA kits. They have all these different online tools that you can use. You can upload your DNA from other places into GEDmatch, and it has all these different tools that you can use. 𝘠𝘰𝘦𝘺𝘕𝑚𝑎𝑡𝑐ℎ. So again, all of the things that I'm mentioning has taken a long time to get through, but I wanted to be sure that you know about them, because for those of you that have been doing this for a while, you need to know that you can do it. You know, it can be done. This is just one tool. This one tool I really like because it does it for me. The thing I don't like about it is that you can't really control it. I can't tell it what to include and what not to include. There are other tools that let you tell what to include and what not to include. I feel like I'm losing y'all, so I'm gonna move on. But when you push the button to say, hey, I want my cluster, the way MyHeritage does it is that they will email you this file that sits on your computer. So you have your data on your computer in this file, and you click on it and it opens up and it looks like this. And then you scroll down and it takes what it showed you in that cluster and it lists every member of that cluster. So it lists each individual. It lists all the different clusters. The one that I picked is the one that I'm researching. So I'm going to pick that one cluster. So my cluster number 2, if you look out there where it says notes, do you see what's written there? My notes that I had that I put in from MyHeritage. So how does that help me? It helps me because I already know who that person is. I know how they're related to me. I know how each person appears on my family tree. So I know the most recent common ancestor for each of those person because I already understood it. Those people that I don't have notes for is because I haven't figured it out. But it gives some really good information. It tells me how much DNA I share with a person. It tells the longest segment of DNA. In ICW, in common with, it tells me the in common with for it. The cluster number that was cluster number 2. And then it tells me how many people are in a tree on MyHeritage. So those blue numbers are numbers of the people that are the number of people that they have in their tree on MyHeritage. And if I click on it and I have MyHeritage already open, it will go directly to that tree. So I can do my research from here. So how many people have used this already? Know what I'm talking about? A couple, a few. Thank you. So for those of you who are using MyHeritage, go and use Auto Cluster. Download your information from Auto Cluster. The other tool that I can use on my heritage is this chromosome browser. So remember I told you that I'm trying to find the exact segment of DNA that I share with my ancestors. That's what this lets me do. I have to build it myself, and that's what I have done. So remember those people that I had listed in that cluster? I went to each of those persons, and what this is telling me, it's telling me this is my uncle's DNA. So I compared my uncle to 5 other people, 6 other, I think 7 is the max. I compared him to each one, and it tells me the segment of DNA that they share with him. Each one's a different color. So on chromosome number 1, at the top up there, there's a green and a blue. There are 2 people that share DNA on that little segment. And that green and blue is paired with the people at the top. So I know that this is a little confusing a bit because I'm not showing you the names of the people. But there's a pair of people at the top of each, and each one has a different color. So you are able to tell how each one shares DNA with each other. And they're all being compared to the person that took the test. The person that took the test was my uncle's.
Mean relative wise in terms of cousin?
No, how means which segment of DNA do they share? So on chromosome number 2, you see there's a bunch of people. There's the second grouping down. There's a yellow, a green, a blue, and a purple. So the yellow, the green, the blue, and the purple share DNA on that little segment. They share it together. If you go over a little bit, then you'll see a red, the purple. They overlap. That's the DNA that they share. That is the segment of DNA that they share with each other. So for people that are just starting, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it until you go in and you actually look at how you match with each other. But this is what the companies do. Those DNA testing companies do this. They take you and they compare you with all the other people in their database, and they see which DNA you share together. That's what they do. So that's what this does. So why do I want to do this? Because I want to build that DNA family tree that I was talking to you about, where I can match each little segment to an ancestor. So I'm working on Charles right now. So I know that Charles is related to each of these people, and this is where he shares DNA with each of these people. This is where they share DNA with each other. I'm gonna move on because what that looks like. One of the other things is that you used to be able to download all of your DNA from MyHeritage, but this is better because this kind of groups them together, and it lets you download each one as a group. I covered up their names, but each person, it tells you exactly how you share DNA with them, and you can download it. Once you get it on your computer, it's a lot easier to compare. For those of you that are okay using Excel spreadsheets, I download it, put it in a spreadsheet. That's what I do. So I'm able to use that. So that was MyHeritage. So there's some other testing sites out there. You guys use FTDNA, please, FTDNA, anybody? So FTDNA. So they have similar tools on FTDNA. They have the chromosome browser. The difference between the one on FTDNA and the one on MyHeritage is you have to build the FTDNA with yourself. So you have to pick each person you want to compare and build it. They also have what's called a matrix. The matrix is the same thing as that little cluster that I showed you earlier. That's the matrix, but you have to build it yourself on family tree DNA. The thing I like about family tree DNA is that it lets you download all of your matches, all of your segments. It lets you continuously you can download all that stuff. But the thing I don't like is that I don't have very many matches. My matches on family tree DNA are they're distant matches. I don't have very many close matches. Maybe some of you, the rest of you, do have close matches. I took mtDNA. My brother took Y-DNA, so I do have those. I just don't have many matches on there. I don't have as many as the other places. They are distant, and there are fewer of them, and they only show you the few. So that's that. So that's the family tree DNA side. Okay, so when you're researching this, you see all the other information that other people collect. They set up trees. So here's an example where somebody else set up a tree, and I had to go through and see if it matched, see if it was verified. You might not be able to see this at the back of the room. But this is where I went and I looked in, I said, you know, where's this? This is the way that I see whether or not my guy that I am trying to research, whether or not that's the correct descendant for him. So just because somebody else put up this family tree, I'm not going to rely on it. I'm going to go back and research it myself. It's a little convoluted because if you can't see it, he's got some people listed twice. You know, I couldn't figure out what that was. I did see that some people are listed private, and so that doesn't help me because they're private. But I had to go back through each tree and I had to figure out if it was correct, and if it wasn't correct, if there was a way to fix it. Some people are willing to update stuff and some are not, but some people will help you if you try to go down the same journey because it's their ancestor too. But that's an example of me going back and verifying. I didn't just accept it was there. I had to go back and see if it was correct. So I do see Jasper on there. This person listed Jasper, and I see him on there, and that's how I know that they were a relative. And I did go back and verify each one. Okay, so I mentioned that I verify from every single site. There is a third-party tool that I also use. I've been using it for a while. It's called the genealogical DNA analysis tool. It's a piece of software that sits on my computer. I upload everything to it. So I take all the DNA from all the other sites and I upload it to that particular site. It's the holding point for that site. So this top picture is what that is. It is a screenshot from that tool. So why do y'all think I do that?
That's DNA from the different sites.
Huh?
Verification.
Yeah, that's verification. Yes, also because it is the one place that I can keep everything,
Thank you.
right? This is the one place I can keep everything. It has tools that allow me to do things like look at the most recent common ancestor and find all the different segments that I've already found. It compares the different DNA I have from all the different sites. So it is a tool that sits on my laptop that I upload all the information to. It is the one place that I have that all that is combined. It is a free tool. When I started using this tool, it has changed over time. But I recommend it because it is the one. No, let me just back up and say that in order to use it, you have to get the data into it. The DNA testing sites, they change all the time. And so sometimes you have to jump through some hurdles to get the DNA into it, but I promise you it's worth it because it will be the one place that you can go to that will correctly answer all of your questions once you get it in there. So all this research that I'm doing for Charles, I can go to this one tool and see all that research that I've done. I do not have to jump around between all the different tools to do it. I can also compare it to other things that I'm working on. So the next thing I'm going to do is Charles's wife. Thank you. It's Charles's wife, you know, because I didn't just get DNA from him, I got DNA from her too. So it'll all be here too. The second picture there is something called a leads chart. Who does leads? You know what leads is? Okay, so just quickly, leads is another way you can do it. If you have a spreadsheet, you take a spreadsheet, you take the DNA matches that you have, second and third cousins, and you try to figure out where they fit on your family tree. You give it a color code. Once you give it a color code, you can see how they match other people, other shared matches. So it's very useful, but it's manual, something you can do on your own. So what did I find out? I find out that I need more descendants for Charles. I got a bunch of descendants for Jasper, but not enough for Charles. Because the information that I collected was not enough for him. I did do some research and found out that Jasper was mulatto. Now, it doesn't mean that Charles was mulatto, but Jasper was. So I need to go back and figure out how that plays into my research. I figured out that Jasper's mother was from Georgia, which I did not know. I thought they were all from Alabama. They are married into the Averets multiple ways. So I used to think that, Averets are more closely related, but I found out that the reason that I have shared a bunch of DNA with them is because we are related a bunch of different ways. So that's what I found out. I have a lot more research to do, of course. So let's just talk about brick walls and shattering brick walls. So here's another question I'm trying to ask. I'm trying to ask, how is this one person related? I'm gonna go through this quickly because we don't have much time, but I got this one ancestor. Her name is Caroline Todd. Caroline Todd. Caroline is my second great grandmother. And I found I found several DNA matches that didn't match other DNA relatives, and I couldn't figure out why. So I went to GEDmatch we were just talking about, and I looked to see if I could find a person because I wanted to run several tools that would tell me whether or not the persons that were seemingly related to them and the persons that weren't really. I wanted to assess that. So I looked for a profile on Ancestry and 23andMe, and I did find someone. This tool on GEDmatch allows you to compare it, and I don't have to do that work myself. But the step was that I took an example from one cousin who was on a profile on GEDmatch, and I matched it to my mother's brother. My mother's brother has one X chromosome that he got from his mother, which is Caroline Todd. So I know that was correct. So that's how I was able to verify that. Just clicking through. It gave me this long list of matches, and here are the overlaps for those matches. So I was able to verify that, yes, they are indeed related in the way that we thought they were. Here is the documentary research. Caroline was married to this gentleman named Abram Falls. I can see her on the 1870 census. You might not be able to see it from the back, but you can see that Caroline Falls is listed there. She's a female laborer. It says that she's listed with two of her children, Lauren and Sterling. And then on the next 10 years later, I see Caroline Falls, and she is listed with those same people, Lauren and Sterling. And now I can verify that she is a widow in the 1880 census. And she is has the children from her first marriage to William Todd, because her oldest son is William Todd down there. And so I can verify that she was married twice. And if I look at the family tree comparison, this is her and Abram Falls. And this is her and Abram Falls. And I can see that she's got a person that's a Falls and a Todd as children. So my conclusion there was that, yes, she had the two children, one with a Todd and one with a Falls. And that's why those people were not matching. I had one with the Falls and Todd, so they may not have had the same father. So the match that I was looking at is a half cousin, not a full cousin. Y'all about to fall asleep, so I know what happens to me right this. You have a question? Will anybody have a question? Let me take a question. Yes. Yes.
That was wonderful. I want to get where you are. I want to get back to where you are. But this may be neither here nor there. When people and DNA is taken from them, and we start doing our DNA testing, and I finally break down and do mine. Does their DNA testing show up? Does their DNA relationships show up?
So some companies do allow the authorities that are researching crimes to look at your DNA if you allow them to. Family tree DNA. If you have a family tree DNA test, you should go to your profile and you can opt out and say, no, I don't want you to do it.
She's asking the opposite. Does the DNA that authorities do, does that get loaded into email?
I don't know I have never heard of that before. I have never heard of people of anyone loading their DNA from crimes into these. I've never They usually, no, it's usually the opposite way around, where they have to get a warrant and say, hey, we want to use this. We want to use your family tree DNA database. I've never heard of anyone doing that before. And actually, there's a privacy policy on each company. And I would read that privacy policy before you get.
Okay, let's take one more question, please.
Could you identify like the top 3 or 4 DNA testing companies that if you wanted?
What are you trying to accomplish? No, seriously.
I only have
Okay,
ancestry.
let me just tell you that, you want to get as many people as you possibly can to try to figure out who you're related to. So Ancestry has the largest database. So I would say they have the largest database, so go there because they have the largest database. And once you go there, you can do other things. You can go to MyHeritage if you need tools that you can use. You can go, if you're trying to do Y DNA, or if you're trying to do mtDNA, MyHeritage Ancestry doesn't do that. So if that's your goal, go to Family Tree DNA because they have those tools. So it's
MyHeritage is a DNA company.
MyHeritage is, yes, they sell DNA tests. Correct, they sell DNA tests. But again, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is
Find as many connections as I can.
do Ancestry DNA because they have the biggest database, and you can do the things from there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.